Deadline day is here, and we've got a phone-in show to talk about what is and has to be the most exciting, the most riveting, the most. I was going to say sensual then, that's the wrong word. But I'm going to say that this is one hell of a transfer window for all the wrong reasons. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal phone-in show. The opportunity for you to tune in, to join in, and to listen to the thoughts of not just me, but other listeners as well, and people that have, of course, their burning thoughts that they want to give on Arsenal and on the topic, of course, of the transfer window. It is currently still open. As we sit here at 6 o'clock on Thursday evening, the transfer window has not yet closed. So who knows? Could we be in for a big surprise? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say that relatively confidently as well. But it's been a week. It's been a month, I think, of frustration for a lot of supporters that wanted to see something and they've not seen that. And so we have to put the question to you. Did Arsenal fail in Arsenal's January transfer window? Did Arsenal not achieve what they should have done during this window? Is there things that they could have done that they didn't? Or do you think that ultimately they couldn't have failed because there was nothing for them to succeed in during this window because of profit and sustainability regulations, because obviously of the squad that we've got right now, we've got players coming back, or maybe there wasn't the players out there available during this window for Arsenal to go and get? I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what you've got to say on it. And that means, of course, we're going to open up the phone lines to our guests, to our panelists, to you listeners that are joining us on this deadline day. If you would like to get involved and like to have your say on this topic, if you phone in now, you will get on. What we find is obviously as the phone lines get a bit busier towards as the show continues to go on. So if you want a chance to have your say, I'd get yourself into position ASAP to be able to call in. The link to do so is in the description. You might need to refresh the stream and go back into the show to see it. But the link is there. I'll also be spamming the chat box throughout with the link for you to join. So if you'd like to get your thoughts heard, like to have your feelings known and give your own view, then please do drop into the call by clicking the link that is continuously in there. Whilst we wait for our callers to join, of course, I'll be engaging with you all in the chat box. With it being such a quiet January transfer window, there is a fear, and there is always a fear when you do a phone-in show, because these aren't pre-planned. You don't line up guests. You don't do anything of the sort. That no one comes. Just like no one signed for Arsenal. I suppose in some ways it might be quite apt if that indeed does happen, and we just end up having a chat with the chat box. I hope it doesn't. The link is there. If you want to join us, you can join us, and you can come on and have your say. Shall we jump into the chat and have a conversation about this transfer window? Scrolling up, and let's say hello to people joining us. Glenn, Paul, the Joker joining us as well. Temi says, yes, what is the point of Edu if we can't get some money for Runnison? He had 6 months left on his contract and was going to a Champions League club. We also signed no one. Temi, why don't you join us, mate? Why don't you voice those frustrations on the show? John says, I wouldn't call it a fail. There's hardly any serious money transfer action anywhere across the Premier League clubs. Plus, we have profit and sustainability regulations preventing us from making big offers. Everyone is saving their money for the summer. Good evening to Black Shine. Not a fail. Yes, I would have liked a striker, but which one was available? None. And so we wait and look forward to a fully fit squad. Yo to GG in the chat box. Amira says this has the potential to be a very interesting show. The potential is there. I'm not sure whether or not it's going to happen or not, but I'm going to have to rely on you guys to provide it. AFC Cape Town, am I an F1 fan? I'm a semi-F1 fan. I can enjoy it. I watch it. I tune into the races. I really enjoy Drive to Survive. But I suppose the biggest deal of deadline day has indeed been Lewis Hamilton is going to be joining Ferrari for the 25 season, which is amazing. It's a start. It's like someone described it to me as like Kevin De Bruyne moving from Manchester City to Arsenal. That is the kind of the magnitude of that move in that specific sport. Amira says each caller should tell us their definition of failure for what context surrounds the transfer window. I would be intrigued to get that, to hear what the definition of failure for the window might be. I can see some callers are starting to jump in, which is fantastic. We're going to get to our callers very soon. Of course, if you would like to join, make sure that you have your cameras turned on so I can do the over 21 check, or the over 18 check, really. We're in the UK. And of course, make sure you're in a quiet and calm area so that it's a good listening experience. We're going to join first by Steve. Oh. Steve, join us. Steve, you all right,
mate? Yeah, I'm okay.
You weren't ready for that, were you?
Sorry, I've had chocolate.
That's all right, mate. Do you want me to go to another caller and I'll bring you back in if you want to finish your bar of chocolate, or you're all good?
Yeah, I'm good. Good, thank you.
Good stuff, man. Tell me, where are you joining me from, first of all?
Northamptonshire.
Oh, lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Is it as cold as it is down here?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Bitter. Very bitter indeed. Have Arsenal failed in this January transfer window, Steve?
I don't think they've failed. Is it? Oh, I've got two streams going on at the same time. I do apologize.
You can hear me and yourself. That must be really confusing.
Yeah, hang on. Yeah, I don't think they've failed. I still think they need three players, but if those players are more, yeah, I can. If I leave one, then I could try and, I don't know.
Yeah, just close the other. There we go. Okay, well, we'll get Steve back. We'll get him back. He's clearly having an absolute nightmare. But we'll get Steve back very shortly. Don't worry. We're going to bring in Jasvanth, who joined us yesterday. How you doing, Jasvanth? How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Hi, Tom. Doing good. How are you doing?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Have Arsenal failed during this window?
No, I don't think so, because there's no really big scope to do it with the PSR rules as well. And I think probably we were a defender short, considering the injuries of Timber and the unavailability of Tomiyasu. But I think with Tomiyasu returning in probably in 2 weeks and Timber back by the month end, I don't think there's too much to worry about.
Yeah, I tend to lean on that side of us not failing at the moment, because I don't know what my expectations were. I mean, what were your expectations going into the window?
I didn't have really big expectations there. But I was shocked by the links to Amadou Onana.
Yeah.
But
yeah. That went quiet very quickly, by the way. That died down very fast.
Yes. But if Ivan Toney was available, then I thought Arsenal may cash in on Eddie Nketiah and get Toney, but he wasn't available there, and we need to put on a big price to get him.
£100 million was the price tag for Ivan Toney. I can't see Arsenal being able to spend that much. Have you then now, I suppose, got big expectations for the summer, because we didn't buy anyone here?
Absolutely, Tom. I expect another summer of spending spree there. Maybe probably upwards of 150 million, definitely, because we need to. We need reinforcements in midfield, a striker, and a pacey winger. It's very, very important.
There were some outgoings, of course, during this window. We didn't manage to move Cedric on, although I must say that some windows, of course, do remain open for an additional amount of time, so he could still go. Is that a frustration for you, or do you kind of get the context around why we weren't able to get rid of him?
Not really, but I would have loved to get him off the books, but still, I think he is, end of the day, another body there. What if Ben White gets injured and Tomiyasu gets injured? We don't have a right back there. And I think until the end of the season, his contract ends and he leaves. But yeah, I would have loved to get a fee for him, at least a small fee. But I think it's nothing to get too much frustrated there.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it's too much to be concerned about. Arsenal have managed to sign 3 right backs since, of course, Cedric's come in, and all of them are key parts of the squad in Ben White, Yuri Timber, and Takehiro Tomiyasu as well. So it's not like the presence of Cedric has affected anything regarding what Arsenal has done. Just thank you so much for joining me once again. Always a pleasure to chat with you. I hope you tune into the next one.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, mate. Much appreciate it. We're going to try and revive Steve now and hope that Steve is working. Steve, are we fixed?
Yeah, I think so. It was just about, I had two streams of you going at the same time. It was a bit of,
double
bit of an
trouble.
echo going on.
No
I
worries,
had
mate.
enough
No
listened
worries.
to me once, let alone twice. So
Indeed. Where were we at then? So I think you were saying you didn't think it was a failure of a window because we weren't really expecting too much. Was that right?
no, more to do with if the players who we want, which I think are more specific and I think harder to get. I think if they're not available, you can't do anything, can you? And also about the money. If the money isn't available, or we're not allowed to spend that money, even if it is sitting there, I just don't think so. I think it's got to be the right players now. I think we've got a good enough squad. It's about the right players who are actually going to improve the actual team or compete with to get into the first team. It's no good anymore sort of building up squad numbers. It's actually someone who's actually going to come in and make a difference.
How happy are you with Arsenal's recruitment strategy as like the work that Edu and Arteta have done? Are you pleased with work that's gone on to build the squad as it is to where we are?
I think last 2 years, I'm saying last 2 summers, don't know whether it's quite 2 years. Last 2 years, I think it's been brilliant. Prior to that, it was poor.
Yeah.
But then Edu's actually said about it wasn't. It was really difficult to recruit anyone at that time because we was in such a bad state. So, but the last 2 years. But my thing about
I'd say 3 years. I feel like the third. If you go 3 years back, you're at the summer with Ben White and Ramsdale and Tom Yasu.
So 2.5 years. So
yeah,
split the difference. The last 2.5 years has been good. Prior to that, I think it's been rubbish. But my thing with the recruitment is I think it went really bad for 10 years between 2008 to 2018, in between David Dean leaving and Edu coming in. I think the people who were in charge of recruitment in that time was appalling. And I think one of them went to Ajax, didn't they? And actually went...
So, well, obviously Ivan Gazidis was the CEO during that time. We had, well, obviously Arsene Wenger was in charge of pretty much all of it, really.
Yeah.
And we had
But
Rouse
David
and
Dean was
Yehi as well.
David
Sven Mislintat you're talking about. Yes, Sven Mislintat. Yes.
He was awful, wasn't he? So,
well, yeah,
he
brought in...
destroyed Ajax, didn't he?
Yeah, he got sacked from Ajax.
Ajax.
Yeah, he was sacked from Ajax. He went to Stuttgart and did a decent job, but then went to Ajax, finally got his dream job as a sporting director and got sacked. Yeah, so we've had to jump through some hoops before we've got to Edu and Arteta and finally been able to combine a pair that have built us a squad that have turned us into title challengers. So, what are your expectations for the summer?
I think we need someone to replace Suarez.
Cedric,
fullback Cedric, or whatever, Cedric. Someone who's going to compete, not just going to, bench sit. Actually, wants to get into the first team. So
I think he would want to. He just can't because he's not good enough.
He is just not going to. But we need someone who's good enough to try and compete. Well, he's not really anymore, is he? So I think he's past his sell-by date. I think what I'd like to see in midfield is really tricky one midfield, isn't it? Midfield, I think it looks like Zubimendi's coming. Does it?
I mean, he's very, very much on the club's radar. They are very keen on him, but as are Bayern Munich, to my understanding as well. There are a few clubs that are very keen. I know there's been reports in Spain saying he's picked Arsenal, I think was the headline. I haven't heard that it's that far along from my side of things, but he'd be a great signing.
Yeah, he would. I think El Neni's going to go. We know that. That's fairly certain. I think Partey's probably 90% sure he's going to go because of the injury situation. What I'd like to see is, obviously, we would have Rice in defensive midfield, Zubimendi, and one or two loan come in as a third backup, either Lukonga, which I didn't really think so at the beginning of the season, but he's starting to play well for Luton, or Patino, and maybe keep, if for those people who are really worried about sort of backup, maybe keep the other one as a backup, the Jorginho as a backup for 1 year, just to see how Zubimendi and one of the other youngsters settles in.
Yeah, we got that 1 year option on Jorginho. So
I think that, 4 defensive midfielders is is overkill, isn't it? Really. So
it is in one position. I would say at DM, I think 3 is a good number.
Yeah.
But we
I'd
also
say
need to
keep
box to box. Sorry,
just as because one of the youngsters and Zubimendi are a bit unknown, just to have a backup, just insurance, if you like. But I don't think any more than that. The attacking midfielders, I'd like to keep it the same, though I think we need more from them, especially Vieira, Smith Rowe, and Abbots, if I dare say that name.
Not a fan yet.
Before it sort of gets everyone on a little bit of a tiz-was. But I'd like to see Wanyeri given a bit more of a chance next season.
Well, he signs his first pro contract in March, so hopefully we see some youth get some more chances, because that is an area I think a lot of people would like to see Arteta give more chance to.
So those 5 would probably be okay. Attack midfield. I'd like to see a attacker, but I don't have no name.
Yeah,
I'm a bit sort of Premier League sort of
centric.
Yeah, centric. I don't really know what the other players are doing unless they're really big names. And but I think we need a striker, and I think I also think Zubimendi and a defender, and I think those 3 I think would improve the squad, improve the actual team, and I'm not sure. It's going to be sort of between Nketiah, maybe even, which is a bit of a loose cannon, Trossard going, because Trossard's 29 now, is he?
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think he might be 29 or very close. Yeah, he's 29. Turned 29 December. So yeah.
It's not saying he's a bad player. It's just we just got to get into the habit of selling players at the right time, rather than selling them 2 years down the line when he's not really worth anything.
Yeah, I think that the idea that Arsenal would be able to bring in another wide player on top of a centre forward next summer, I think is a tough one. I think we do need another wide player, but I think that the striker is going to take some precedence if we can find.
Well, if we get a striker, then Jesus can cover the wide areas as well.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true.
It's just, I think it kills 2 birds with 1 stone, if you like.
Steve, it's been a pleasure to chat to you. Thank you for jumping on the show.
No, thanks a lot. Thanks for letting me come on. Hope I haven't peed anyone off too much.
You've been fine, mate. You've been fine. Thank you, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Steve. Fantastic stuff. I love getting debutants on the show. It's always great. Shanor is up next, who is not a debutant, but has been on before. Good to see you again, my friend. How are you doing?
It's been over a year since I last came on, so good to see you remember me.
Did I scare you away? Is that what happened?
No, you didn't. I was just, my original Twitter account, something happened to it. So, yeah. Anyways, and plus, you weren't doing these shows on a regular basis, like these call-in shows, which I just realized that from yesterday, I think you started doing something on a daily basis. So,
more weekly. I certainly couldn't do a phone-in show daily, but we're going to try and do weekly. Maybe we'll see how it goes. But I like doing them; they're a lot of fun.
And also here in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, it's 12:22 a.m. in the after midnight, basically. Yes. So it's actually not a bad time for me per se, because I'll be done with my day's work and everything, and because we watch European football anyway, so we'll be up a bit later than usual. But anyway, so on to your topic, did we fail in this transfer window? Yes. So in short, yes, we did. But if I were to elaborate on it, then there are a couple of facets here. FFP, obviously, now that we know that FFP has been an issue, and most clubs, they're just not buying at this moment. They're looking to wait till the summer. So it's not like that there's a lot of movement happening. Had there been a case of other clubs also making big moves, had we managed to sell a few players, perhaps an Nketiah, then you would have seen movement for sure. We've went to our last ditch resort, as I might say, in selling some of our academy players. Maybe that was in the plan anyways, but that's not going to make much of a difference in terms of FFP, I guess, because they're not being sold for big money. had we managed to sell Nketiah for 40 million even, I think we would have been able to spend around 150 million. I think that's how it works out with FFP. When you're selling your homegrown players or when you're selling your academy players, when it counts as a pure profit. So had we managed to do that, we would have definitely bought in players. And there are areas which really need reinforcing, Tom, because last season we saw what cost us the title, and that was the injury to Saliba and to some extent the injury to Tomiyasu.
Yeah.
And we don't have a Saliba rotation option this season. I don't think Timber would have been that option either.
Ben White might have been.
Perhaps.
Timber was fit, I think Ben White might have been.
Yeah, perhaps. And even then, we are seeing links with Diomande, although they're all coming from Portugal. We're not seeing Diomande links from England. So had that been a case, then we definitely would have gotten that center back in if we managed to sell. And also, we need a midfielder. We sold Xhaka and we really haven't gotten that midfielder, that left center mid, that left 8 that can do the job that Xhaka did. Or we spoke about a Xhaka upgrade last season and we really didn't get a Xhaka upgrade. We got Havertz, who's a different sort of player. He does his thing, and there's a lot of controversy about his wages being too high and everything. And you've spoken about how wages are poorly reported on, so I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole different can of worms.
They're not only poorly reported, they're also poorly contextualized. And what I mean by that is that what he was on at Chelsea, and if you move from Chelsea to Arsenal in a £65 million deal at the age of 24, you're not going to see that wage be dramatically different to what we have paid. So people can lose their heads about how much we're paying Havertz, but if we were ever going to sign him, he was never going to be on anything less than that kind of figure.
Right, exactly. So anyways, with all of that being said and done, I understand why we needed Havertz. We lacked aerial presence up front. You know, he's a dual winner. He always gets into good positions. He's always attacking space. So it's about utilizing what we have right now, but we still need that left center mid. I know Charlie Patino's out on loan and he's not been having the greatest of times on loan. He started off well, but it's cooled down a bit in recent times from what I've seen or from what I've followed online. So right now, we're going to need to get that left center mid and also that center back in the summer along with the striker. People keep talking about needing a striker the most. And I personally feel that we need to fix our midfield first. You look at Real Madrid, they don't have a really top class number 9. They have Joselu. Joselu's their main number 9. And they're scoring goals. They're top of the league.
They might next season. Yeah. Mbappe, I say concerned. I don't really know where else he would go. But yeah, I agree with you in the sense of I don't think you necessarily need like a world-class centre forward to win things. But what I do think is that Arsenal are in a position whereby if they don't start to have more clinical forward players, that doesn't necessarily have to be the centre forward, but that's the player that you usually look to, then obviously we will find ourselves struggling to catch Manchester City and to a lesser extent Liverpool, of course, this season. But with Klopp, who knows what's going to happen next year. So I think you raise fair points. It's interesting. The whole thought, obviously, the start of that monologue stemmed from the idea that we failed in the window. And it's difficult to say that we failed in some ways for me because my expectation was I didn't think we were going to sign anyone. And to be honest, I don't think the club thought they were either. They were going to look around if there was any opportunity to maybe do a loan deal. They might have done because that's probably all they would have been able to do if they were able to sell anyone, or if a bid emerged for one of their key players and they got a lot of money in for one of those players, they could have been able to, spend some money that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. So I see where you're coming from, is that if we could have strengthened, it would have helped us, and therefore it's a failure that we didn't. But there's also an argument, I think, to say that, well, can you fail at a task that you haven't endeavored to set out upon, if that makes sense?
Well, here's the thing. There's a common saying that if you fail to prepare, you have to prepare to fail. And we failed to prepare for this January transfer window in particular, I feel. Even when Timber got injured early on in the season, and I think the transfer window was still open, we could have looked into the market and we could have planned accordingly. This is we're in 2024, and some of our players in our squad, like El Neni, and Cedric, they're still here. Runarsson had his contract terminated today, so that just goes to show that we're actually not very good at selling. Last time I came on here, I remember saying that we've got a plan and all of these phases and everything, and I have no qualms with the ownership because they are backing the club, but then FFP is there as well, and it's on Edu and the people selling at our club to at least get some value for the players, or selling at the right time. We hold on to players sometimes for too long, and then when their values are lower than what they should have been, we then end up losing them for free almost. We did that with one of those players who was linked with Wolves. I'm forgetting his name, but yeah, he was a fullback. He could play left back, right back, in midfield as well.
Yeah.
So
trying to think who that
was. he's very good with his penalties. That's all I'll say. But yeah,
Maitland-Niles.
Why?
That's so bad that it's like it's been so long and I've already forgotten who Maitland-Niles is.
I could picture his face, but I just forgot his name. But yeah, Maitland-Niles. Everyone in the comment section, thank you as well. AML all over. And the reality is that we have left ourselves a lot of work left to do in the summer, but more importantly, for the rest of the season, we are almost on a tightrope. Arteta said that we have a thin squad. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that we have a thin squad. Man City have a smaller squad than us per se, but they have quality all over. They don't have players like Cedric that they have in their squad anymore, or they never did perhaps. So at the end of the day, what is our target this season? Are we looking to win the league? Are we looking to go far in the Champions League? Are we looking to win the Champions League? We have to be realistic. We've got probably the second or third best squad in the league. So that's what we have to tone our expectations down to. We're out of the FA Cup. We're not in the League Cup either. So it's going to be a tough few months ahead. You know, we need to be patient again as fans, especially the ones that have been falling for from the 90s, perhaps, 20 plus years without a league title definitely hurts. A lot of our fans are probably still hurting from what happened last season. So we just have to be patient and hope that by some miracle we end up with something at the end of the season and then, move forward. I will say that if everyone stays fit, we've got the quality. We've got the quality to win either the league or the Champions League, but that never happens. Arsenal, we always have injuries.
Yeah, it's a big if to expect everyone to stay fit. I mean, Partey is hopefully going to be back soon. It's interesting. We talked about the Xhaka replacement because I do honestly believe if Partey had have stayed fit for us, if Timber had have stayed fit for us, we probably would have been seeing Timber, Partey, and Rice playing the majority of the games this season. But sadly, we haven't seen that, and so maybe we would have seen Xhaka's absence felt much less if that was the midfield that we would have been able to build. But we've sadly not been able to see that. Shoa, it's been a pleasure to chat to you. I've got a lot of other callers to join us, but I really appreciate it. Firstly, staying up so late and taking the chance to jump on the call as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be there in the future as well. Hopefully, looking forward to more brighter and happier conversations about our football club.
I look forward to it, mate. Thank you. Thanks, Shoa. Much appreciate your time. Let's jump on to our next caller. We got Bill up next for us. How you doing, Bill?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you, Tom?
Always good. Always good to hear your dulcet tones.
Thank you very much.
It's all good. Have Arsenal failed in this January transfer window?
I mean, from my opinion, no, we have not. And the way I would contextualize that is you look around at, what the other big six clubs have been doing this transfer window, and it's next to nothing. I think apart from Tottenham, who are, rightly able to spend the 100 or so million pounds or euros, whichever one they got for Harry Kane, they've got the money to do that now. Everybody else, I think I was looking, and only Man City have signed anyone else, and they immediately loaned them back to the club that they were signing them from. Mm-hmm. So it seems like league wide, you've got most teams not able to sign people. So what else can you do in the window? I think we're doing about as much as we can. We're loaning out some of our most highly rated youth players to get them senior minutes, and basically hoping and praying that a lot of our injured players get right back in. And I think that from there, we have the squad to compete for the title if our squad stays fit, which a lot of our players like Partey and Timber. Yeah, that. I mean, I set out from the moment he ruptured his ACL. I planned for the season without him, so anything that we get in the run-in would be a bonus for me. But just having him back would be a huge bonus, and Partey is going to be huge for us when we get him back. So I think we are set up better than most to be able to compete for this title. We just got to stay fit.
Yeah, and it is such a huge question. And I suppose the counter argument will always be from critics is that, Arsenal should prepare for those injuries if indeed they do come along. But you can only prepare to a certain extent, especially when obviously you've invested £105 million in Declan Rice and you expected him to be partnering with Thomas Partey, and you lose Partey after a season where he's been available for 30 odd plus games, and he goes into a season where now he's available for 4. It's just a very, very different contrast. And in the same way with Timber, you sign a £38 million player and you expect him to be at least available beyond the first 45 minutes of a brand new season. It's incredibly frustrating. And not only that, but we've had Martinelli missing. We've had Saka miss a key game against City and we still managed to win it. We've had Trossard missing for key game. I think Trossard and Martinelli were missing in the same period at one point as well this season. I think it might have been Everton. No, it wasn't Everton. Well, there was a game this season where we didn't have either of Trossard or Martinelli available because they were both out injured. We had, obviously, we've been lacking players like Zinchenko at certain points this season as well. Tomiyasu has had injuries and now is at the Asia Cup, of course, as well. Jesus has been missing for certain periods of the season as well. Ødegaard had a concussion and a hip injury, which kept him out for a period. Also, Smith Rowe and Vieira have been missing. Like, we have had greater injury issues than people give us credit for, but when we go into this next summer transfer window, it for me has got to be, Bill, the one in which really, unless there is an utter disaster, which you can argue we probably had still this season, but a massive disaster, we should be prepared for certain injuries.
Absolutely. And I think you could argue to an extent that we were prepared for the injuries that we've sustained. I mean, who has a better third string center defensive midfielder than Jorginho?
Yeah.
Who has a better fourth string left back than Kivior? I mean, for most teams, when you get to that point, you're throwing on a 16-year-old kid from the academy, which some people would argue we should have done anyway. But
which if you're Liverpool, is already a Ballon d'Or candidate, apparently.
Well, so, of course. But, yeah, but you look at that and we're still competing even with, having those injuries chew up our depth. So, like I said, having all of that depth back for the run-in, I think we're poised to have a better second half of the season than we had the first half of the season, which is the inverse of what we had last season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that we need to make sure we go into this summer with obviously a plan and trying to enact it as quickly as possible. We did really well last season at getting in players quickly. I know it felt like it was an age that we were linked to Rice and linked to Timber and linked to Havertz, but actually we did get them in obviously well ahead of the brand new season, which was really, really important for us to do. And Rice and Timber were able to play in our pre-season games in the US as well, which was really important. And we need to make sure that we do that again, as Arsenal will be travelling again. You must be thrilled about this, Bill. Once
Absolutely.
again, the US. I think that, how much do you think, because obviously we spent more last summer than we've ever spent, ever in a season. Is that what's needed again, or do you think? I think it was one of our previous callers that said they thought around 150 million would be it. So I think it was Stefan was saying it. Do you think that's enough, or do you think it's going to take more than that?
I mean, I think with market inflation and the fact that we're back in the Champions League, we're competing for titles, I think you're going to have to start spending, at least 150 million if you're wanting to really improve and take yourself to the next level. I think obviously it's going to be just who's available on the market and who we're really targeting. I mean, if we feel like it, that, say Osimhen is the guy that we want, the guy that we need, and we're willing to go out and spend that money, then we got to spend that money.
But that's 130 million. You've got what? If your budget is 150, you got 20 million left to do the squad.
Right, and you could argue, well, at that point, we keep either Partey or Jorginho as a backup to Rice, and then you've got your third choice central defensive midfielder could be Patino. We've got a promising young player on our books already, and you don't have to go out and spend that money. But yeah,
No, I think you're right. I think if you're looking at 130 million for Osimhen, you've got 150 million budget. I'd rather we went and got 3 50 million pound players and added those to the squad than an Osimhen. And probably one of those 50 million pound players is going to be a striker that may not be better than Jesus right now, but has the potential to be better than him in the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's probably the more realistic, because Zubimendi's got like a 53 million release clause, I think, in his contracts. And I think if you look at other centre forwards, you're probably looking at one of the younger ones that can develop and then eventually outgrow Jesus. Because if you want a Tony, if you want a Watkins or an Osimhen or a Vlahovic, you're going to pay over 100 million. And I'm not sure they're even worth it, really. Even Osimhen, I have question marks about.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to be a huge risk if you're going for one of those, triple figure millions strikers, and going for one of those younger strikers, you almost take a different risk in that they're unproven at the top level, but I've heard of plenty out there that fit that mold. I think it's Gyökeres in Portugal, but yeah, just it really just depends on what Edu and Arteta are really looking for. Are they looking for the win now mentality, the win now prices? Because you're going to have to pay those win now prices if you want those kinds of players. But obviously, the striker market, which of course we're trying to dabble in, is one of the most at least saturated markets out there right now. It's really sparse, at least at the very, very top end, which is where we're wanting to shop.
Bill, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Are you making your way over to the UK anytime soon?
No plans at the moment. I would really love to, but got to work around the young one, and obviously just got to make the finances work. But I will definitely let you know if and when I am making that trip.
Lovely stuff, Bill. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and catch up with you once again.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Bill. Had the pleasure of meeting Bill in Chicago when I flew over earlier last year. One of the most amazing people alongside so many others out there. It was an absolute pleasure to meet so many of the American-based Arsenal fans out there. It was a brilliant experience. And I always ask the question whether people are coming over to the UK, because it's great seeing fans from abroad, despite the fact that some people don't. And I still have those debates. They had that legendary phone in about tickets, you may remember previously. One person saying to me they think that the majority of Arsenal fans in the stadium should be English. I mean, where is the world going when we're saying things like that? Incredible. We're going to bring Junior onto the conversation now. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Hey, Tom. Can you hear me?
I can. Are you a Newcastle fan?
No, this is a Stussy.
All good, mate. It's all good. Yeah. I'm going to try and turn your volume up a little bit because you're quite quiet. So you might need to speak up slightly. Tell me, have we failed during this January transfer window?
I would say yes, but it's not so much with regards to the arrivals. It's more so with regards to departures and how our inability to sell at a respectable rate inhabits our ability to our purchasing ability going forward. And I'm not sure if the blame, I wouldn't even put the blame so much on Edu. I'd actually put the blame more so on Arteta, because of the way he mismanages the squad, which then inhibits our ability to move on players at respectable rates.
Right. Give me an example.
So, classic example that we have at the moment is with Ramsdale. Now, for one reason or another, he's decided to move on to another goalkeeper, and that's at his complete discretion. He understands football better than all of us. But in order for the betterment of the general squad and for the betterment of the club to be able to procure a respectable fee, for someone of Ramsdale's quality, who was in the Team of the Year voted by his fellow league players, we should be in a situation where there's an actual demand for him, rather than there being like I haven't even heard of an attempt to try and sign Ramsdale. But if he
I know there is interest, just a heads up, I know that there are clubs interested in Ramsdale for the summer. He's certainly going to be coveted, from what I understand.
Granted, but I mean, if
I
he
agree
was
with
playing,
he should have got more minutes, especially in the Champions League, 100%.
Yeah, and if he was playing a few games in the Champions League, I'm sure the interest would have been a lot more firm, and there would be clubs out there who are in need of a better goalkeeping situation, whether that be in the Premier League or Europe, who would make more tangible inquiries. And that sort of stretches across the breadth of the squad. If we were looking at players, if we go into the recent past, like Ainsley Maitland now, we went from having a 19 to 20 million offer from Wolves to the player leaving the club for absolutely £0. Even players who have been surplus to requirements, the likes of your Aubameyangs, etc. As Arsenal, we were celebrating the fact that we had cancelled his contract. 6 months later, Barcelona had sold him to one of our rivals for 12 million. But okay, and then going forward, it means that because we're unable to sell at a respectable rate, it affects our ability and our spending powers going forward when we want to buy someone in subsequent transfer windows. So what then happens is we don't quite have the money to go all the way to push for, at the time, let's just say Mudryk, even though it seems like, fate actually had our side on that particular deal. But let's just say he went on to be a class player at Chelsea. If we had the extra capital to do it from some of the sales that we had previously done, we'd be able to go fully ahead and purchase the player. And I just think I'm not putting all of the blame on Arteta, but it's just too obvious when a player isn't in his good books or isn't when a player is surplus to requirements. It's too obvious, and that way we end up with situations which is probably going to happen with Cedric, where we're going to have to cancel his contract and pay him off in order for him to leave now.
Or he'll just expire now. I don't think
or it will just come to a natural end in June. And then when we do have the money, some of the decisions we've made in the transfer market have just been a bit. Well, why have you done that? For example,
let me guess. Does it start with K and end in I Havertz?
No, I wasn't even going to talk about Kai Havertz.
Okay.
I'm also looking at the likes of Polish player Kivior.
Oh, really? Okay. I think this we might diverge here, but go on.
What was the logic in spending, just north of 20 million on a player whose position he hardly plays in, and most of his appearances have been at left back, where, let's be honest, they've not been really good, and even in the appearances in the Europa League, I mean, there's an argument to say some of our eliminations or some of the goals that we conceded lie on the fault of Kirill. Like,
well,
what was the need to spend that money on him?
To be fair, that you're pointing towards the own goal against Liverpool, which I think is, it was a mistake. It was an own goal. I mean, to be fair, Ben.
No, I'm even talking about the miscommunication with Turner, with Matt Turner in the Europa League
game. Oh, okay. Well, we're going back there. Sure. I think with Kivior's an interesting one. I don't look at Kivior and say that was a bad signing, because I look at what happened during the season that we actually signed him. Saliba gets injured. We don't have at the moment the depth on the right-hand side of our defence because Timber's injured, because Tomiyasu's currently away at the Asia Cup. And at the end of that season, we lost in the same game Saliba and Tomiyasu. And if it say had been Gabriel instead of Saliba that got injured during that season, because we'd signed Kivior, we would have had an answer to the Gabriel injury. As it turned out, it was Saliba and Tomiyasu that got injured in the same game. And so we lost not only Saliba, but the guy that is supposed to come in and replace him, or you can put Ben White there and play Tomiyasu at right back. So Kivior was brought in because, without question, we needed another left-footed centre-half to come in and strengthen that side. And if we hadn't have done that, we would have been very short.
Look, I respect, obviously, your reasoning.
You can
behind
say
that,
you can disagree with me. That is fine.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. We had Kieran Tierney, who for his national team he plays at left centre back.
In a back
Obviously,
three.
that's in a back three, but he's still very capable of doing it. We've had plenty of players from the likes of Bakary Sagna to Nacho Monreal, who more than adequately covered in centre back. I would have preferred cover on the right hand side, and then it just goes to show. There's times where we've seen Arteta play two left-sided centre backs or two right-sided centre back. So the fact that Saliba dropped out, if Kivior was such a good signing, he should have been able to deputise in his position. Yes, it might not have been completely the same, but the fact that we resulted to Rob Holding, it's like, okay, what's going on? And there's just a number of different signings. I've been like Vieira. Yes, there was some sort of hype around him at the time, and the signing, to be fair, was pulled off quite incognito. No one knew it was coming, but I mean, up to right now, it's been a bit of a failure and a waste of £34 million, where we've had someone who could adequately play that position and has had just the same amount of time out of the team due to injury in Smith Rowe. El Nene, I don't know if he's just there as a cheerleader, as a moral booster for the squad, because the reality of him getting any minutes is slim to none at the moment. Kai Havertz is a whole discussion in itself. So there's a number of different decisions, even down to the likes of Marquinhos, where we didn't have to pay a fee, but we paid a fee to Santos because that would build relations. And yet we haven't seen the fruit of those relations at the moment, where we're like, when we do have the money, some of the decisions are really questionable. And then we're not doing enough to put our players so that they look favourable to other teams in the transfer window, so that when teams do see these players, that they've got adequate minutes, they look like decent players, that we can then achieve a fee for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just seen the other day that Nemanja Matic was sold by Roma to Lyon, who has next to no money, for £2.5 million.
We say they've got next to no money. They just signed Mangala for I think it's 10 million loan and then a 15 million option. So they have some money.
Yeah, they just signed Nemanja Matic for £2.5 million.
Well, from Rennes, not from Roma.
Oh, he went to Rennes. Sorry.
Yeah, he went to Rennes from Roma and then has gone from Rennes to Lille, which is a bit of a controversial transfer, to be fair. But look, let me come in back in from what you were saying, and we'll finish the call on this point because there are other callers on. But I think you raised some fair points. I agree up to a point in terms of the shop window theory. Aaron Ramsdale, you're absolutely spot on about. Like, for me, Aaron Ramsdale should have played the Champions League games. I said as much on the show during those Champions League group stage games. There was no reason why Mikel Arteta could not have rewarded the guy that effectively, with his goalkeeping, helped us back into the Champions League by rewarding him by giving him the starts in that competition. With the opponents that we had in the Champions League group stage, starting Ramsdale over Raya would have made no difference for me as to the outcome of us qualifying or not from that position. And it would have given him plenty of game time. It would have made him more, I think, happy in his situation, and it wouldn't have created as much of a storm as it has done. So with Ramsdale, I'm with you. The Fabio Vieira and the Havertz deals, again, I'm with you at the moment. Those are, jury is out very much on those signings, far more so Havertz than Vieira, because Vieira's obviously been with us for a couple of years. I think we're edging towards probably best to move him on in the summer. Havertz, still very much the jury's out on this one, with it being so early during his tenure. However, what I would say is that when you say about the spending and what we have to show for it, I'd say what we had to show for it is the spending of what Arteta and Edu has done. It's taken this club from when they took over when we were 11th, and they've taken us to a position where not only did we compete for the title last season, but yours and ours expectations have risen to the point where we expect to compete this season, and we will expect to compete at the title next season, and we will expect to compete for the title the season after that. So that is what the recruitment and that is what the work that's been done in the market for this football club has done. That's what we have to show for it. It's that our expectations have risen, and we are now, not just within Arsenal's fan base, but within the wider footballing context, are expected to compete in the title race successively and hopefully try and close that gap to the point where maybe we can get a bit lucky at times and maybe be able to snatch one away from, Man City, which is always going to be a tough ask. That's what I would say is what we have to show for it.
I will just add really quickly, Thomas.
Mm.
My expectations have risen for the club in the last couple of years, but my expectations also have risen in terms of our performances in the cups. And our performances in the league have improved, while simultaneously our performances in the cup have absolutely just gone to crap.
Well, we did get drawn against Liverpool and then Man City the year before in the FA Cup, for sure.
It didn't stop us from winning the FA Cup in the first 6
No, it
months.
didn't. But it's definitely
and we
a
played both of them.
reasonable. It's definitely a reasonable explanation as to why in the last 2 seasons we've not progressed as far as we perhaps would have hoped to. I really don't think that saying that Liverpool beating us, who are top of the league, and Manchester City beating us, who were the team that won the treble in the season that they knocked us out, is that much. League Cup, I don't mind having a debate about at all because we got beaten by West Ham.
Oxford.
We beat Oxford.
Oh no, sorry. It was against West Ham that we went out. Nottingham
In
Forest,
the
Tavares substitute year.
Yeah.
It just and so for me, if we're not going to meet expectations in terms of winning title, because I actually had us winning the title. So if we're not going to,
you had us winning the title this season.
Yes.
Despite the fact Manchester City won everything last season.
Yeah, because they lost players, and I believe naturally there'd be a little bit less motivation for them to go for the quadruple. But they lost key players.
Why?
So I'm like,
why would they be less motivated?
No Mahrez, no Gundogan. Who else am I missing? Someone else as well. That
doesn't mean they're going to be less motivated, does it? They did also bring in some players during that window that are young and hungry and ready to win.
Assessing it based on history. No one's done a quadruple.
No, of course. They're not going to be less motivated to win games, are they?
No, obviously they're going to do their
but you said they'd be less motivated this season.
I would have assumed that there would be a little bit more of a slump. Well, we've already sort of reached the peak, Mount Everest. So
if you're a treble winner, your mentality is win, win, win. There's no we've won the treble, now we can sit back. And Pep Guardiola is
tell that to United.
If
you listen to Gary Neville, the team of '99 where they won the treble,
he
admits they sort of lost some motivation after they'd won the treble.
Right, but that's an individual who isn't at Manchester City and isn't under Pep Guardiola's management.
Fair enough. I still had us winning the league. So if we're not going to win the league, if we're going to,
I think that the odds of Arsenal winning the league this season compared to City again were way off. You're entitled
we were second,
but I don't think you can justify it.
We were second, but that doesn't. That doesn't stop us from aiming to win the league.
No, of course, and I love the fact that your ambition is there. I just don't think you can justify Arsenal being the favourites for the title.
Oh no, I'm not saying they were the title favourites. I'm saying my expectation of my team is to win, regardless of the obstacles in front of them. That's how I treat like my children. My daughter might be going through something, and I'll push her further. Anyway. That's another thing.
I understand the theory. I don't think it's applicable, but if your favourites for the title are let me get this straight. So to clear this out. So your expectation was Arsenal to win the title, but your favourites for the title were Manchester City.
Yeah, they're the bookies' favourites.
But they're your favourites, is my question.
No, they weren't my favourites. My favourites are still Arsenal.
But how can you justify that?
Because I believe we have one more year, more experience.
So does Haaland.
I believe we have a slightly better squad, although we have succumbed to some injuries.
Oh, okay. So we started off this call.
At the start of the season.
We started this call by you criticising the recruitment, but now you're saying we have a better squad, despite the fact that you criticised the recruitment. Do you see where there's a bit of a contradiction?
I didn't criticise all the recruitment. I started off by criticising the departures. And the inability to
Havertz and Vieira and Kivior.
No, I remember I said Havertz is a different discussion. I talked about Kivior, Vieira,
who are signings, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But in spite of those, every club
has
still
got a better squad than City.
No, I'm not saying we have a better squad than City, but at the start of the season. No, wait, let me finish. At the start of the season, when I compare squad for squad, I was like, we can go against City, 100%. Now, that's not taking into consideration injuries, which is a perfectly adequate excuse to be like, well, we're missing key players, etc. But what I was not prepared to see was Arsenal to go out of the cup so easily.
Right.
And some of the losses and some of the lapses in concentration and some of the lack of the creativity, I'm like, my assumption is we should be pushing forward and going to another level. Martinelli would have improved. He's 1 more year experience. Same with Saka, same with Odegaard, etc., etc. And it's like they haven't improved. There's an argument to say that.
Do you think we
back.
overachieved last season?
There was a degree of overachievement in the league.
Yeah. So in the league, we did way more than what you and others, I think, would have expected to do, right?
I thought we'd finish third.
Yeah. Okay, so you thought we finished third, but did you think we'd even compete for the title?
No, I thought we'd be within sort of 5 to 7 points off the top 2.
Oh, okay. I think, which would obviously, in usual terms of Liverpool and Man City, is you'd think we'd be finishing about 85-ish points if they're finishing in 90s, which would be more points than we'd ever achieved for quite a while, would it not?
Yes, but that was because in the season we finished 5th. There were games that I noticed. It was like, if we had just cut out simple mistakes, we would have easily eclipsed Chelsea in that season, who finished 3rd. And it was our own undoing, our own downfall, that we ended up finishing 5th rather than finishing 3rd.
I think it was the lack of Partey, to be honest. But, that's me.
Look, I mean, we're all entitled to our own opinion, but I've just got... I believe this squad can do better than they're doing. Regardless of that, I think there's things that we can do on the business end that will help to further improve the squad and to certify my positing that we can actually comfortably be favourites for the league and favourites for...
Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't think we're that far away.
What, for being comfortable favourites for the title?
Yeah, if we make the right decisions, yeah.
Oh, I admire your ambition. I wish I had it, but I admire it. But I'm not there. I don't think we can. I don't think I see a world in which Arsenal are comfortably the favourites for the title in the next 2 to 3 years, even if we had Jurgen Klopp in charge. To be honest, because Jurgen Klopp's been in charge of Liverpool for 7, 8 years, and Liverpool have never been comfortable favourites for a title at the start of a season. So I don't think we're there. But Junior, it genuinely has been a pleasure, and I always appreciate getting different points of view because it makes me think harder and makes me reassess things. I think we've aligned on some things, like the management of certain players and the shop window, that we put some players and we don't do enough to put players in shop windows. I think we diverged on other parts. But thank you for coming on, mate. I really do appreciate it.
No worries at all. We'll catch you in the comments.
Thanks, Junior. Appreciate it. Lovely stuff. Let me get my list, because I did create a list of who was next. Got people waiting. I don't want to mug them off. Abdul's next. How you doing, Abdul? You good, Joel? You on mute? You done a Drew? Hashtag Drew in the comment section. There we go.
It's hard, yeah.
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I can't promise you I'll have you as on for as long as I did yesterday, because that was basically a podcast in itself. But
it's not good.
Tell me whether you think we failed during this window.
Yeah, so for me, it depends. And when I say it depends, it's probably like the easy way out of this question. But honestly, for me, it really depends. And it depends on summer, right? So if we haven't spent anything in this window, that's fine, right? But then what are the expectations for summer, right? So my expectations are that we're going to sign a striker through and through. And by that, I mean someone who's just hungry to score goals. Literally, just like the ball's at his foot, just you take the damn shot, right? And then we're gonna try to score it, right? So that's kind of like what frustrates me right now in the team right now. Like Jesus' goal against like in his last game, where he just the throw in from Saka, lets it roll and just like takes the shot. And that's kind of what you need to do. You just gotta take the shot. You know what I mean? Just take your shot, take your chance. Even if it's a 50-50, just take
score, then win us the game.
Exactly, right? So just take it, right? And sometimes I don't see that from our players. Sometimes they would receive that ball, do an extra unnecessary touch, and then just kind of ruin it for themselves. You know what I mean? And that sometimes really annoys me. Saka does that sometimes. Jesus does that sometimes, and Martinelli does that sometimes. Sometimes it's just about just take the shot. Don't do the unnecessary touch. We don't need the open shot. Just take your shot. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm looking for a signing in the summer. Who that player may be for me, it's Osimhen, but then you spend 130 million on it. I mean, it's debatable, but then you got to always think about we spent 100 million on Rice, and I think the payback was pretty good, right?
Yeah,
I would assume so.
Yeah,
so
it's been all right. It's been all right.
Best player on the team so far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I mean,
the problem with the strikers thing is that if we go and spend 100, as I've said already, 130 million there last summer, we could spend 100 million on 105 million on Rice. You could spend 38 million on Timber. You could spend 65 million on Havertz, and that's questionable whether we should have done that. And then we still got David Raya in on loan as well, which is also going to have to come out of the summer budget also because of profit and sustainability regulations. Mm-hmm. So then you're buying Raya on a permanent, which I think we all assume is going to happen. We get Osimhen, maybe we get another midfielder, and then you're really struggling for money. We're going to have to sell, surely, really well.
We should, right?
Go,
like I think
Ramsdale's going to have to go. Smith Rowe's in question. Nelson, I think, should probably be going. There's a number of players that could go.
I mean, at the end of the day, like we have to decide it's either Ramsdale or Raya, right? I'm assuming we're going for Raya. Is my guess. I'd
be mad if we didn't after what we've done.
so then we just sell Ramsdale in the summer. There's no need. There's no need for us to keep a player of his. I mean, we probably, I mean, there is a need, but he wouldn't want to be, right? He's going to refuse to be. You want a player who's motivated, and I don't know if he's going to have that motivation if we ever like sub him in for any other match. So you just sell him, you make money off that. Sell him at what? And we're talking about maybe 25 million minimum for me. That's how much I would sell him at. He's that good of a keeper.
25? You're making a loss.
Yeah. I mean, Arsenal has a way of overpaying for players and underselling, right? Yeah. So I'm just saying we should never go below that 25 million, right? So
I'd say 35 is my minimum.
100%, but I have zero trust in our selling community.
And I don't blame you. Yeah, that's fine. I can't debate that.
Yeah. So last money there, I would sell Fabio Vieira. And the reason I'm saying that is because I just don't think he fits the play style that Arteta wants to play. And I've seen him play, even when he has a good game and when he does well, I still see some sparks in there where I'm like, man, it just doesn't seem like he genuinely fits the team.
It's so weird. I'm still slightly excited by Fabio Vieira, and that's not necessarily a good thing. It's just because I still don't know what he's meant to do for us.
And we'll never know because he just doesn't fit the style of the team, because Arteta's trying to find an appropriate position for him to fit, but it just hasn't been working, right? And then so that's one player I would look to sell. And Nenny, I think it would be time to sell him as well. How much would we make from that? I don't know, 5 million maybe, give or take. And then Fabio Vieira,
free. His contract expires.
Well, then there you go, right? Yeah. So not so even no, like million. There's no money there.
5 million.
Like we could have got him, but we could have sold him to a team in Turkey. You know what I mean? Like we could have made some money there. You know what I mean? But you know, it is what it is. There was no need for us to hold on to him if we were not going to give him any minutes at all, right? I guess he also did get injured as well, so that's also another thing there. So you'll make money off Fabio Vieira. You'll make money off Ramsdale, and what I would do there is I would buy a proper midfield. The other thing is, I don't know about Thomas Partey, and I don't know what the plans are moving forward. I'm assuming, and I'm predicting this, is that we're going to sell him in the summer. That's my prediction.
I think it's 50-50.
I think we will. I don't know if he's going to continue with the team or not. I think it's a possible sale for me, but then you'll also make money off that sale too. And
he has 1 year left on his deal, I think, this summer. So
yeah, which is like either he renews the contract or we just make the sale, obviously. So that's just given, right? And then so you make money there. That's 3 players where we make a decent amount of money for, right? And then we would go into the market. We would buy the striker that we need that will make us insanely competitive next year. And I'm not talking about a striker we build him and have a high ceiling, because at the end of the day, those are still risks, right? Rice, for me, was not a risk. Rice showed what he's capable of, and he's exactly showing that on this team, right? Just go pay that money for a player that we believe is a good fit for this team that will take us to the next level, right? And pay that money. If it's 130 million, go for it. But then we have those sales that will allow us to buy another proper midfield. And another proper midfield for me is someone like Thomas Partey, but younger.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right?
A world-class midfielder younger. Yeah, I'd take that next.
Yeah, but we just gotta look for it, right? We just gotta find that player, find the one that fits the style. You have Odegaard, who's playing forward, attacking midfielder. For some reason, we have Havertz playing there too. I don't know if that's going to be his goal moving forward or not, but we also have Smith Rowe, and I think Smith Rowe has a high ceiling. And this poor kid, injuries are doing him no justice, and that's
people point to Arteta, but I do. Injuries are the primary reason why Smith Rowe is not getting the chance.
If he just gets his minutes appropriately and he just goes with it, I think this kid is definitely one to keep. The problem is he just keeps getting injured. He's just injury prone. So I don't know whether we should keep him this summer or maybe look this out. Again, that's something that they need to decide. They need to make the decision on. So all those decisions will come to play, whether did we fail in this window or not. So if we do everything correct in the summer, and I'm not saying 100%, but if we get 90% correct decisions, then for me, it was the right decision not to rush any signing this window. We took our time. We made the right signing this summer. We made the right sales. We get the right players to make it to the next level. I want to be in a position where I'm like, you know what? This year, we're going to compete for the title, and I have no doubt about it. This year, I was like, I have my doubts. Next year, I don't want to have any doubts because we're going to have Timber back, and Tomiyasu will be hopefully healthy as well, and we're going to have a lot of depth in the squad. So you'll have Jesus covering either part, you know what I mean, from the wide players, or he'll be a coverage for the striker position in case the person we signed gets injured for a couple weeks here or there. So overall, we'll have that depth that is required for us to compete. But we need to make those decisions. We need to have those right decisions in the summer to allow us to reach that level. And for me, it's going to depend on the summer really for this window.
Yeah, I think that we've got a lot of work, obviously, still to do.
100%.
We've got to make the right decisions, and hopefully we can do that. Abdul, thank you so much for jumping on the show again. Back-to-back appearances. Lovely stuff.
Probably first and last time.
You're fine, mate.
Right. See you.
Cheers, man. Have a good one. Thanks to Abdul. Tom's up next. Let's get Tom into the call. How you doing, Tom?
Hi, I'm doing great. Sorry I didn't manage to come yesterday, but
it's all good.
Well,
I have a question for you first. To be fair,
yeah,
your water bottle. Does
yes.
your water bottle light up?
Yes, it's a water bottle that tells me what to drink.
Yeah,
yeah, it tells me when to drink, and it counts my drinking. Yeah, it's actually very helpful because like you, I'm on a bit of a type of a diet. But one of the things that I have to do is to drink a certain amount of water. So it helps me keep it up. Yeah.
Mine don't light up though. That's impressive. That's very impressive.
No, I'm terrible. I'm terrible with keeping up with the water. So I had to get something that actually tells me how much I need to drink. So
if I had one of those, I'd need to stick my missus' face on it, because then obviously like she feel like she's watching me, telling me to take a drink. Yeah, that's the way. That's the only way it would work. Have we failed in the market, Tom?
Well, I know usually even in people, I'll try to be a bit more realistic than I had one of the conversation you had before, which was fun watching someone who's trying to be a bit different. But in order to fail, you have to set a certain expectation. And I think in a different way, we didn't fail because there was no expectation to begin with. And this is something I actually really liked from Arteta and from Edu compared to previous to the Wenger area, because in the Wenger area, usually what would happen is that we would have been told or say that we're capable of doing things that mostly we didn't, and we would waiting. I remember the summer we only signed Peter Cech, so we signed him very quickly, and everybody was like excited, and we were promised and things, and then nothing came. and I think the difference with Arteta and Edu that they promise and they deliver, and they say what's going to happen. Even last winter, they say but we will be able to get players, and we did. Not exactly. Of course, we didn't get the Mudryk we wanted, but we did get. I mean, we did get Trossard and of course Kivio, which was a surprise, and we did went to try to go for Caicedo, and try to use the opportunity to get Caicedo, and then we went to Jorginho. So when they did manage, when they had the capability, they were honest about it, and when they don't, they didn't. I mean, they came from the start of this winter and said that we will have maybe an opportunities, but don't expect things. And as long as they're honest, I can live with that, because if they're being honest to me and say, look, we'll try to do something. Yes, I was hoping that we might find, but they were honest and they said, look, of course we want to buy the Tonys and the Osimhen. I assume if they were able, but they weren't available. Tony was 100 million, probably not even. I mean, they say the 100 million, but that's like saying, okay, if we would have brought in 100 million for them, so they will probably say, okay, so give us another 20 million. So let's move it up to 120. They didn't. I don't think they really wanted to sell him. They just put a price.
Arsenal never were going to buy Tony in this window. But it was never.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think Brentford were really about to sell him anyway. So yeah, they made this crazy figure that they knew nobody was going to reach it, and the Osimhen is the same case. I mean, they made a release clause, but the release clause is only activated in the summer, so there was no price. It's the same as the Caicedo case last year. When we offered 60, 70 million, but they were like, he's not for sale. You can put 100. We won't sell him. So there's no point in trying to do something that is not possible. And I like that way that Arteta and do operate, because they're honest. And they're honest, and they know when they can, and they do when they can, and they don't. So I don't feel like we failed in that point of view, and even in the sales. Now I know people a lot of came up and criticize doing the sales, but I actually had a bit of thought while hearing people say it regarding, and they gave the Maitland-Niles case, which was really interesting, because people forget, and the thing is, people remember the point, but don't remember what happened exactly. So when when Wolves came in with the offer, Maitland-Niles was the number one right back we had. Yeah. So he was her number one. He had the potential. Everybody was showing him the right back, and there was no point of selling him because he was the young potential. And then people forget that the reason Maitland-Niles' career in Arsenal actually kind of failed is that he was adamant to move back into the midfield, which
he was left wing back, wasn't it? He played on the left wing back position in that.
Exactly. He was playing on the wings, and there he was very good. But when he was trying to force his way back into the midfield, very similar case to Oxlade-Chamberlain, who had the same case, and he failed in that. And not only did he fail at that, even when he was loaned out for West Brom, and he was playing there in the midfield, he didn't show any promise there. So it was a case that he kind of, instead of understanding that this is what you're good at and actually manage to thrive in what you're good at, he was trying to force something that in the end of the day he wasn't good at, and he kind of backtracked his career, which at some point we couldn't sell him because, he wanted to play midfield. He wasn't good enough as a midfield, and we couldn't sell him as a right back because he didn't want to play as a right back.
It's really easy to say with the benefit of hindsight, we should have sold him to Wolves for 20 million, but you're right to point
exactly.
out.
Exactly.
And the first game of the next season in the Premier League as well. I think that was the game we started against Fulham. I think he started. I think Tierney was left centre back. Maitland-Niles played, and then Willian obviously played in that 3-0.
Yeah,
Craven Cottage,
and obviously the Cedric case and the El Nani, which the same. I mean, those are two 30-year-olds with 30-plus-year-old on the left last year. I mean, nobody gonna pay. I mean, the players we usually want to sell, and we're trying to sell are the people, the kind of the players that don't play. They're on minimum, on the very, very low last year of their contract, and usually they have high wage. And people say that we don't sell well and compare us to other teams who sell well, but if you take the same cases, if you compare cases that we have, like for Chelsea, for example, Chelsea is a classic example is the Baba Rahman. You remember him?
Yeah, the left back. He's played for.
Yeah, they bought this. Yeah, exactly. So they bought this left back, and they never played him. He was loaned for like ages, like 7 years. He was always on loan, and in the end, he left for free, and they never managed to sell him.
Yeah, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loans, and then went
exactly. And this is exactly
career gone, ruined. Yeah.
Exactly, and this is a case you have to compare when you look at Cedric, because we try to offload him on a loan at Fulham to try to gain his to raise his price, and instead people, for example, in Chasey case, go and compare ourselves to sales like Gui or Mark Gui, which was, he was he had an amazing season at Swansea at the Championship, or Tammy Abraham, which were very good, very young, and of course they had good value. And I think this summer, what will be actually will be judged, and when it comes to players that actually has a realistic value, like, for example, Thomas Partey, if we sell him, or Fabio Vieira, players that are in a good age, are part of the squad, are really being played, and people might see them as a possible, people will want to buy them, not we want to sell them. That's the thing. So this is, I think it's the right time to actually judge Edu and Arteta on the selling capability. Now, one thing I would criticize a bit, Edu, regarding this winter, is regarding the loaning of the younger players. And I think, and I give the example of, first of all, I think one thing that we're not doing enough yet, or we're trying, is the players who are kind of in between the first team and the under 21. For example, Souza, for example, Wouters. Actually, Junior is actually Sago is actually did left, so he was. I think at those points we actually a bit missing the fact that I think we should loan them out, because if they're not still good enough, if they have potential for first team, but not yet, they need to get the chance to show it in a lower league or another team, because this way we can get either they look incredible and we actually integrate them to the first team, or they show some potential, but then we get a distance. But when, for example, Wouters doesn't play he's too good for the under 21, but yet he doesn't good enough plays. He kind of put him in the middle, and I think this is a bit of a thing that we're missing. And we have to remember that all the players. I mean, I know Saka was a very good, a very amazing exception.
Yeah.
But all our young players who actually did succeed, went through loan. Even Bellerin, he was a year loan at Watford, or half a year. He was a year, and even Bellerin, when he came in, people forget, but actually he came in because, if you compare him, is actually very similar to the Bradley case, in Liverpool. But he came in for the injured Debussy, and he was exceptional. And remember, he was team of the year, and he was basically
Chambers injured as well when Bellerin came in. Am I remembering that?
Yeah.
Right? Because against Dortmund, won it in the Champions League.
I don't remember that, but I remember he came in for Debussy when Debussy got injured when he dislocated his shoulder, and then and then he was so exceptional. He got immediately the team of the year, and basically was basically was connected, connected to basically City and everybody, and he was worth
against Liverpool, didn't he? With his left foot, I remember that. Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in those players that we have to get better value for them. Like for example, I don't know how much we got for Sousa.
It's undisclosed at the moment. Trust me, I have been trying all day to find out that price tag, but it is, I'm told, undisclosed at the moment.
Yeah, but this is actually a very interesting case because I know people say that it's because we have 4 left backs and Tierney, but actually people forget when they say the reason Sousa left is because, but actually we are actually linked with Joel Hato, which is basically an 18-year-old player who can play on the left.
He is a lot better than Lino Sousa, to be fair.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that actually, which I hope I'm reading the plans correct, that the reason Lino Sousa left is because we actually looked at, there's a very good chance we might get Gerald Hato, and then there's no point having another potential.
It doesn't mean we can't go and sign him in the summer still.
No, I know.
Value.
Well, the deal is not final. I know people say, but the deal is not finalized, and usually, in similar cases, usually get
a bit weird. Your mic's gone a bit strange. I don't know why.
You hear me now? Hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Well, even if he gets a contract, a lot of those cases, you get the contract to set some sort of value that the team, out of respect for the team. So you get the contract, but you're expected to be sold. You know how it works.
Yeah, I know. I think that when it comes to the youth players, we can do more. I've said this before. I think Arteta is over criticised for the treatment of youth players. I think actually gives youth players more
definitely
than people think that he does. He's given 7 Hale End graduates debuts during his tenure. He's established players like Saka, Smith Rowe, and Nketiah Nelson in the squad. Yes, they were given debuts by other managers, but he established them to the players that they are now. And I think that, yes, we need to be better at loaning those young players, especially.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the loan system. No, it's not exactly it's just a bit of the loan. And I know we changed the loan manager, and I think if we get this a bit better, we'll start getting those like, and we had good example. For example, Joe Willock, it's an excellent example of exactly the type of loans that we need to do, or of good loans, or loans that we're capable of, or that we're being compared when we see the Brewsters and the Margois.
I think it's going to be hard. I think some people sometimes just don't realize that some players are just better than others, and that we just
exactly
those young players to be as they are. Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you again. I think you raised some fantastic points and spoke brilliantly too. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and I hope if I get to England to just have a chat with you, because it's always fun.
And please send me a link to your water bottle. I'm really curious.
It's called. I'll send now a chat, but it's called Water.io. I don't know if you have it in England, but I'll send a link.
Sure, we'll have something like that. But yeah, I'm techie stuff. Always into it. Lovely stuff. Cheers. Tom. I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Massive appreciation to Tom. I have closed the phone lines. We have 4 callers left. We may be able to squeeze in a 5th, but I need to be off by 8. So the next 4 to 5 calls may be shorter. So just a heads up on those guys. Damien's up next. Damien, how you doing, mate? You good? You well? Hold on. We've got a hashtag Drew moment. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. Yourself?
I want that water bottle as well.
That, haven't I? It's classic example of poor listening. Have we failed in this window, mate?
Well, I said it in the chat at the beginning of the stream. I don't know how you can fail in the market when we've had no money to spend. It's when you could. What concerns me more is going back to the discussion about what we're going to be selling in the summer, because bringing in, assuming we are going to take the fee on David Raya, the money we get for Aaron Ramsdale needs to be enough to be able to bring in a number 2 as well, because I don't think he's going to go with Hine as his number 2 and then somebody else as a number 3.
I think he needs to bring in an older keeper.
Yeah, I mean, someone in their 30s that is quite happy to sit on the bench, that on the odd occasion when you need to bring them in, can
David De
actually.
Gea.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'd want Man
I was
United
more of
player,
a
to be
joke.
quite honest.
But yeah, I think that kind of age bracket, you know, early 30s, that can play with. I mean, Stefan Ortega's proven to be a great number 2 at Man City. That type of deal would be great, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, even Liverpool have got it right with their number 2 as well. He's
Kelleher
decent.
and Adrian have been, you know, very good for their backups.
Yeah, they've done a job. So I mean, if we're buying what we're buying Raya for, about 27 million.
Yeah, 27. It was a 3 million loan, 27 million buy. Yeah.
So,
by the way, I think is a really decent deal for how good of a keeper he is.
Yeah, it really is. But at the same time, it also means that really Ramsdale needs to go for around 40 million if you're going to have the money there, then to be able to buy your new number 2 before you're then taking a loss, you know. But what I find quite interesting about this transfer window is whether this is going to be a one-off quiet January transfer window, or if this is a way it's going to be in the future.
Forwards.
Because I think in previous years, clubs have just assumed that the Premier League don't take their PSR regulations very seriously. But now they've seen what's happened twice with Everton and one with Forest.
Yeah.
It's almost as though it's spooked teams into not wanting to spend money. You know,
yeah, what I would say from an Arsenal perspective is obviously that we did the Raya deal in the summer because of the profit and sustainability, and that was before those charges came in. But you're absolutely right to hypothesize about that. For sure.
So us, and I'm sure some other clubs have done it as well. But in terms of us, we've had the foresight to realise that we're close to the line, and that's why we structured the deal in the way we have. But then when it comes to the summer, it kind of puts more pressure on Edu and Arteta and the recruitment team to get it right in the summer if you've got no room to manoeuvre come January, you know, because you very rarely get a good deal in January. It's you're usually buying a plaster, you know, just to cover something up until you can go out in the summer to buy what you actually want. For us, I think that really means we've absolutely got to get it bang on in the summer with the players we buy.
Oh, we can't afford another Havertz situation. No. Like, and if Arsenal do go to try and sign a player that they look at as like a project, which is what I look at Havertz as, is a project, like the idea of reviving that career. If they do that again in the summer, it's
I mean, I often call Havertz Arteta's vanity project.
Okay,
it's almost as if Arteta wants to have that
challenge
on his name. That look at what I've done with Kai Havertz. Right. Because I think he's probably the only person in the world that's willing to spend money on him.
Well, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid were both interested, but
not interested enough to actually
just the balance.
But not interested enough to actually try and push it through, though.
Well, that's because Arsenal were Havertz's number 1 pick of the player. The way I certainly learned about it as it was going on was that Bayern were keen, Real Madrid were keen, Arsenal were pushing hardest at the time, and as soon as Bayern Munich and Real Madrid saw the numbers that were going in, it kind of scared them off a bit.
Yeah, because he's not worth it. But
sure.
But what I find quite interesting about though is presumably when they're doing their discussions long before the summer comes along and they're identifying their targets, presumably there's more than one person they're identifying. You know, say they want a left back, a defensive midfielder, and a striker. They're then going to have 2, 3, whatever targets that they're actually looking at. Who the other options were instead of Havertz, because I'd love to know the reasons why, who them options were and why Arteta would have chose Havertz over them options. You know, because I struggle to believe that he would have said, for whatever role I wanted for, the only person that fits the bill is Kai Havertz.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, like I say, we can't have that this summer. We just absolutely cannot.
No. Every signing that has to happen this summer has got to be signings that take us forwards and that themselves are on the up, not players that need to be revived. Yeah, I would agree with you.
And I think as well, in terms of like who we're getting out, I think, you know, most people are kind of agreeing that the likes of Vieira, Smith Rowe, maybe even Reece Nelson, players like that are ones that we need to probably look at moving on in the summer if we're not going to make any use of them within our squad, because there's no point having them there collecting a wage if they're just going to get 5 minutes in a game 10 times a season.
No, I think you're right. I think it has to be ultimately squads I think are going to be built of like 18 to 19 players that are going to play a lot, and then you have 6 kind of players that aren't, you know, and they'll probably be made up more of youth stars that get options here and there. But that's I think the way forward to squad building. But Damien, I'm sorry to cut this one short, so I've got to get through quite a few people before
that's fine, mate.
we wrap up. But I appreciate you being patient and coming on, mate.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Thanks, pal. Much appreciate your time. Tommy was going to be up next, but he screams. Oh, there he is. I could see him. He was busy playing Football Manager. How you doing, Tommy? You good, Joel? You're on mute. Take yourself off mute, and I'll be able to hear what you're saying.
Hello, guys. Yeah. No, right.
Can you hear me all right? I saw you playing.
No, I ain't phoned it off yet. Let's just say that. But no, I'm all right.
So obviously you're coming again. Tommy is for those that don't know, a resident West Ham supporter. Gives us a bit of an outside perspective on things. Do you see Arsenal having failed during this window?
Failed. I think it's two. It depends. It depends how you do at the end of the season. Like if you win the league, you can go, oh well, we didn't fail, didn't we, because we won the league. But obviously, if you don't, you can go, well, where did we go wrong? Should we have signed
Is your
someone?
hand on the microphone, by the way? You're a bit muffled.
Oh.
Are you using headphones? Is that the reason? Oh, I can't hear you at all now. Why can't I hear you at all?
Is that all right?
There, yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's better, isn't it? Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
As I was saying, like it depends. It depends if you win the league, you go, yeah, we had a brilliant window. But obviously, if you don't do that, and you go, like, where did we go wrong? Then you start looking at the summer window.
Hold on, he's back again. There we go. Oh. You're chaotic, you are.
Yeah, I know. West Ham fan. What can I say?
Keep going, mate.
You know, but yeah, as I said, like it depends how you get on at the end of the season, really, Tom. I think. So obviously, if you win the league, you could be like, well, we didn't have to sign anyone. We've done it right. We stuck to our guns. But if you don't, and you've got to go, well, we've got to look at the January window. Could we have done it? But then, as you said, it's the profit and sustainability. It's why are we in this situation? Why did we sign Havertz? Why did we sign other players? These big deals. Why did we give deals to like Nelson and Nketiah when we could have done it something else? Do you know what I mean? It's just hard. It's so mad because when I was younger, I never used to like ever hear of FFP, or whenever I was in the like pub or at school, we never used to talk about it. I think it's obviously it's modernised now, isn't it? You talk about the money side of football. Like I think it's more coming to the game like later. Like, I never used to remember talking about this when I used to go over West Ham ever. The only time we talk about money is if you sign a player break, like when we signed Matt Jarvis to West Ham, like 15 mil. Wow, record signing. Yeah, it's like that's the only time you'd ever talk about money.
Yeah, now we talk about it all the time. It's all we talk about.
Yeah, you know? It does wind me up because I'm more of a grassroots football, so I'm like, oh, it's like money just and like stats and all that. I don't know. It's just I'm different, I suppose.
No, I don't think you are. I absolutely empathise with your point of view. It is frustrating having to kind of talk about money all the time because I mean, you know, when you think about when Arsenal were winning the Invincible season, you look at the squad they built. They did it. Yes, there was obviously some high-profile signings in there, but I mean, they signed Bergkamp from Inter Milan when obviously he wasn't rated at all. Stuart Pearce called it, I think, a waste of a signing. Henry was another one of those. And then you look at other players that have come through the ranks. Ashley Cole, of course, that was there.
You got Campbell for free. So
yeah, exactly. And Colatore was like 500 grand, something like that. You know, it's like ridiculous.
He'd be worth a lot more than that nowadays.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but no, it's hard. It's hard with you guys. Like the only thing I don't like is when you guys talk about money. It's like I think because I
in what sense?
I don't know. It's like I know, like I don't understand when people when they go, oh, you spent 700 million, and then you go, oh, well, look at City. Like it's because I know you're a third biggest club. Like I see you as third biggest club. So I think if you're in the bit, I think I've got the same for every club though. So it's not like I've just got it for Arsenal. I've got it for Man United. I've got it for Liverpool. Like I don't think they should ever have the excuse for money for how big. I think that's coming from a West Ham fan as well. So I always go like, you shouldn't be complaining when you've got the silver spoons and everything, and you've got teams like us that struggle. And well, not now, but obviously, like you see, guys, I don't think you, Man City, Man United, Chelsea, and Liverpool should ever have to complain about money when you guys have got like bundles of it. And then with the FFP, then I should say, well, obviously, you should look inside and say, where have you been spending that money wrong? Because you can look back and all the signings under this regime. I'm not blaming all at Arteta. I don't. I look at it from both sides. But you've got to be like, if you go through all the signings, there's been massive mistakes. I know all clubs have mistakes and everything, but when you're Arsenal and you want to win, you want to be winning leagues. You've got to be. That's why I get people more critical, because you're not going for mid-table finishes. You're going for the league. So I get why more people are more critical.
Perfect or as near perfect as you can.
Yeah, you have to, and that's fine. Like. That's why I get why people are more critical and people go, oh, why is he going a bit done? You know, when you get people go, oh, he's a bit negative. No, I get it because it's sort of they're being more thing. It's like, with Saka, like, when people go, why are people complaining about Saka? It's because you put him on that level. You put him on that level of world class, so people are going to be more critical.
Sure. I think about like the incomings wise, about like perfection. I think that a side like Arsenal, we've talked so long about the fact that when you're going up against a team like Manchester City, your opponents who can spend and spend and spend, they can make a mistake like, when they did with Mangala, or they've done with Calvin Phillips, or players like this. They spent a lot of money on those players, but it didn't matter because they could just go and spend another 50, 60, 70, 80 odd million on another player. Arsenal haven't been able to do that for years. And so if we spent big money on a player, they had to deliver. So when we signed Kai Havertz, obviously in the summer, the idea is that he has to deliver. And I think that Kai Havertz deal it's always, and I know some fans hate it, and I empathise with why they hate talking about Kai Havertz over and over again, because it must get really boring. But it is always going to be, at least at the moment, it's going to be something that gets referenced with Arteta. And
you have to look at it. It can't be ignored, I think.
No, of course
it can't be ignored. But I get it where people keep bringing it up, because it's not just Havertz. I get that. It's not just Havertz signing. There's all other signings that you've looked at. Like, I've looked at all your signings. I only see 4 or 5 that have actually gone, like the Odegaard, if I go through it, like you've had like 4 goalkeepers, the defenders like Trusty, Suarez.
Oh, you can't count Trusty. He never played a minute for us.
You still signed him, Tom.
We got profit on him, I'll have you know.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I know. You've got to look at the signings, because then if you think, well, why are they signing him for? We ain't using him, and you've got to be like, well, what's that all about? Like the Mark Quinnox is where you paid that when you're supposed to be free and you paid the extra money. Now he's going back to Brazil. You've got to be like, well, what's going on? It doesn't mean you're negative. It's you wondering more because you want good for your club. You want them, because I reckon Arteta's like it as well. As much as the people that moan about it, because I reckon Arteta is like, he has to be perfect, because he's like he has to be perfect. Yeah, and I get that from him.
I don't think anyone can question Arteta's ambition for Arsenal. Arteta's ambition is to win everything. That's what he wants to do. It's if I think the Havertz situation obviously does fall on Arteta more than it does the recruitment team, because he will have to sign off on that deal. But you look at what Arsenal have done under Arteta's tenure, it's only moved in one direction. It's only moved forwards. And now Arsenal have established themselves as a team that are expected to compete for the title every single season. And we had obviously the phone-in show yesterday about whether or not Arteta should sign a contract. And for me, those that don't want him to sign a new deal because they'd rather wait until the end of the season, I don't think that's realistic. So I say it's not a reward if we give him a new contract. It's just for me the last step. You would sack him.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, people think because you've given them a contract doesn't mean you can't sack him.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's exactly what I said. Yeah. You can still sack them. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah. You haven't got a new contract and he still got sacked, or he stepped down. But it's just, I don't know. It's Arsenal. That's just they go on about Man United when you're the same. You haven't won a Premier League in 20 years. So it's like you're both as bad as each other, really.
Yeah, we can be. I'm going to let you get back to watching the West Ham game, which I sense is not going all that well, mate, to be honest, at the moment. Dominic Solanke scoring again. Good for my fantasy team. Not so good for the Hammers, though, I'm afraid.
No. But no, thank you, Tom, and big up the chat and everyone. Smash the like.
Absolute pleasure, Tommy, always. Speak to you soon.
See you later, Tom.
Thanks, pal. We've got, I am going to be able to squeeze in a third caller. Bunch of stuff. I can see we've got Basher, Amir, and Rocky waiting to come on. Rocky, I've left you a message in the private chat, mate. Just make sure you respond to that before you come on. Basher's up next. How you doing, Basher? You good, you well?
I'm good. How are you, Tom?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, mate. You've obviously been waiting patiently. Thank you for that, first of all. Tell me how, if you think they have Arsenal failed in this transfer window?
Well, let me ask you a question first. Is there immediate?
He's come prepared.
Yeah. Is there any immediate needs for the squad that might hinder us from achieving our targets this season if we don't meet it? I'd say yes.
Yes, so, I'd agree with you. Yes.
Right. Hence, the answer is we failed.
Okay. I think it's a really good question. I would counter it by saying, okay, so I think you can't ask that question in isolation. I think it has to come with a follow-up question. So if the first question is, and I think it's a good question, do Arsenal have needs in this squad going into this window that if they don't address could cost them going toward their goals toward the end of this season? The answer to that question is yes. I think we are. We lack depth in the wing areas. I think we lack depth in midfield. I think we lack depth in defence. And so the answer is yes. The second question that follows that is, did Arsenal ever have the financial freedom to address those problems effectively?
Well,
come on, I gave you a straight answer.
I can tell you, everybody has touched base with the Havertz signing, but now knowing that those were the last 65 million pounds that we have to spend until the next summer window, even compounds the mistake. So
it's
in a
not
way,
65 million pounds on the books though in one summer. So it's 65 million pounds spread across 5 years because of amortization. So I know people say this, like we could have spent that 65 million differently, but I always am kind of leaning towards pointing out actually it's not 65 million on according to profit and sustainability. It was it's 10, 12 point whatever, 14 point something maybe. Really not quick maths, but I see where you're coming from. But the whole Havertz thing, if it wasn't Havertz, it would have been someone else, wouldn't it? In the summer, we wouldn't have just let 65 million sit around if that's what we wanted to spend.
Exactly, and I would have rather we've spent this money addressing the first need that you've mentioned. No proper cover for Saka for the second season in a row. Sure. That's not the first season, for the second season in a row. No proper cover for Saka. And the other thing is we've started the season with only 7 defenders. I don't count Cedric. So you have 4 positions. you have 4 positions in your back line, and you start with only 7, which is unprecedented. And I ask you to check every single squad in the Premier League. Any team that plays 4 in the back, they have at least 8 players. And we allowed ourselves to be fooled by the fact that we have players who can cover multiple positions. But guess what? This can and had backfired on us, because when we lost Tomiyasu, we lost the cover for 3 positions. We lost the cover for the right back, left back, and right center back. That's poor squad construction planning, to me. So
I think Harry's touched on this before about kind of the vulnerabilities of having a team which relies on versatility in some ways. Yes, we only had 7 senior defenders, and obviously that was before Jurrien Timber got injured.
That's 7 with Timber.
7 with Timber. Yeah. So you're saying we should have 8?
Yeah, and we've been lucky. We're one.
It's funny because Partey actually started at right back at the start of the season. So is that number 8? That's
Yeah, so to me, I mean, I've had issues with our squad planning and squad construction since last season, and it continues this year too. And this is what really frustrates me. And the other thing, Tom, the only way we can survive or be able to win titles with Jesus as our main striker is for Saka, Martinelli, and Odegaard to score 40 goals and get 25 assists like they did last season. And guess what? Arteta
all of them together. So I was like,
3 of them,
I was like, what? Saka didn't score 40 goals.
Between the 3 of them. So you can survive if you have that. You can survive with a striker with Jesus scoring records. But then I know that Arteta himself said we knew that this could not happen again this season. They would not be able to replicate those figures this season. So I asked him, what have you done to mitigate that? You went ahead and spent big money on Havertz, who scored in just check his scoring stats. He's never been a prolific goal scorer in any club that he played for. So that's again a problem that we knew about, our manager knew about, and we didn't do anything to mitigate it.
How many goals do you think Jesus has scored in his best season?
Havertz scored 19 goals in 91 apps for Chelsea.
Yeah.
So
it's clearly there, isn't it? Like it's there. The talent's there.
Yeah, but the talent is there. But his goals and assists figures, especially if we have this problem that we know was going to happen, and we're living it now. The lack of scoring and everything. So to me, yes, I know you have a couple of other guys, so I don't want to take longer of your time. Those are just the 2 points.
I'm not rushing you on, Basha. One last thing before you go then. Obviously, Arsenal signed 4 players last summer. It meant that we weren't signing any players in January. Do you think if 4 is the number, and I think it's between 3 and 4 is what Arsenal in summer windows are probably going to be looking to do each summer, is that going to be enough to satisfy your concerns in the next summer window? 3 or 4 players?
3 or 4, yeah.
I think it will.
At least. I think that's the least we need. Yeah.
But do you think 3 or 4? I'm not saying at least that. I'm saying those numbers, 3 or 4. Is that enough? If it is 3 or 4,
if there are 3 or 4 players that would be part of the 19 players that we talk about that would be playing majority of the games, yes. Not 4 players that just play get 10 minutes every 5 or 6 games. Yeah. If there are 4 proper players, so that we can end up having 19 players that we can pick and select from, not having to worry about the drop in level, it should be enough. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Lovely stuff, Basha. I really appreciate your time and your patience, of course, as well. Always.
No
always
worries, mate.
Thanks, mate. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks, Basha. 2 more callers to go. Let's get Amir on next. How you doing, Amir?
I'm doing well, Tom. How are you doing today?
Very good. I'm going to indulge you. Amir left a message in our private chat if we could discuss the Arteta contract because he missed out on the phone and show yesterday. More than happy to do that, mate. Should he get a new deal?
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for allowing me to talk about that. I missed yesterday's show just with uni and work, so stuff like that. But in my opinion, for sure, he does deserve a new contract. Again, as you said, it's not really a reward, but just to tell him, you know what, you're on the right track. We're going in the right direction. We see a small improvement year by year by year. So you do deserve this contract for sure. And also another thing is that, it kind of protects our football club against other clubs coming in and just putting a lot of things in the media that Arteta's our first choice. We're going to want him as our next manager. And also another thing is let's say we're planning on signing some new players in the summer, the Real Sociedad midfielder Zubimendi, this summer. So he's going to look at it okay, the manager that I'm signing for, he only has 1 year left in his contract. So what does that really mean? Is he going to be here long term? Is the style of play going to change totally after he's gone? So, it kind of also really helps in negotiations and also other factors for him to get a 2-year extension on the year that he has. So it will be 3 years of Arteta ball. So, yeah.
No, I think you raised the points that I raised. Yes, I think you're spot on. I would give him the new deal. As Tommy said earlier on the show, if you give a manager a new deal, it doesn't mean you see that deal out. It means you can sack them if you want to. If any player is looking to join the club, they want assurances that that manager is going to be there for the long term. You look at Guardiola right now; he has 1 year left on his deal, and you don't know if he's going to be there at the end of the next season. So, will players be looking at that and thinking, is there guarantees that Pep's going to be here? Klopp, obviously, we know is moving on, but we don't know who's going to be the manager yet, so they can't really look at pre-planning signing players or getting in contact really with players because the player isn't going to know who's going to be the manager when they take over. So yes, I think you're right. I'll end because again, I'm sorry for speeding along these calls. We're getting close to 8 o'clock. The question that I kind of asked the critics in a way was, for me, the next contract, if and probably when it's signed, it has to be the contract. I think in the next contract, he has to deliver a Premier League or a Champions League title. Otherwise, he's probably taken us as far as he can take us.
I think that's a really fair argument. And, I back him up, in the comments and stuff. Yeah, the next 3 years, you have to finally, be able to see a trophy, at least a Champions League or the Premier League is the ones that we're talking about for sure. Under the thing that if he's still being back in the summers and stuff, if we go into a financial crisis or it's a situation just like Todd Boehly and stuff, then things would be a bit different. But depending, again, we really want the Champions League and the Premier League. And I really am positive that, he really wants it. Because I remember the West Ham caller that you had on in the previous shows, because I do listen to it a lot.
Tommy, yeah.
Yeah, he mentioned that, when you bring in a novice manager, you could tell them, the board could tell him do this, and he's not going to really speak up and that stuff.
Right.
But
yes, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But when you look at Arteta, when you look at this guy in the touchline and the press conference, I don't think he's that guy to be okay, I'm going to do as what I'm saying.
Trust me, he is not. I've been on the receiving end of plenty of those stares. Yeah, no, he is not. He is not one to just take whatever. So
super demanding.
He will tell Josh Kroenke exactly what he thinks.
Yeah, I know you got other callers too.
I mean, sorry to rush you along. I really appreciate your time. And best of luck with the rest of your uni studies, mate.
Thank you, Tom. Take care, guys.
Take care, mate. We're going to finish our phone in with one more caller. Always nice to get a debutant on. It's Rocky. How you doing, Rocky? Oh, I can't hear you. Just have a quick look at your mic settings. Go into settings on the StreamYard at the bottom of the thing and make sure the microphone you want selected is selected. Nope, still can't hear. This is always what happens. Rocky, when you go into the settings bit and you go on audio and just check which microphone is selected, and it will come up with like little 5 bars. And if there's little green things showing up, it means that noise is coming through. I'll go through some comments in the chat box while you're sorting it out. Okay. Lovely stuff. I want to get Rocky on, so I'm just going to let him try and sort out the audio. Mikey says, everyone only speaks on money and transfers and players. What about the coaching and the information? And this is very true. It's a really good point. Like, we often always talk about the money the managers are spending or the transfers and the players that are involved. But do we actually talk about enough about the coaching? Do we talk enough about the improvement of individual players? Because if you go through the Arsenal squad, and what Arteta has done is that we have improved so many of the players to different levels. Things have improved to a significantly higher standard. And whilst we always talk about the criticisms and the concerns that we've got in regards to, the signings that we're trying to make, or the players that we brought in, or the players that we may have made a mistake on, like Vieira or Havertz, it's all of that. In spite of that, Arsenal have gone from that 11th position all the way through to where they are now, which is obviously competing for a title, and with the expectation of competing for a title again. I wanted to address this comment from Antenna, who says, why in the hell would you give 100 grand in wage for Nketiah and Nelson? I mean, how did that happen? Jota from Liverpool is on 135k. How can someone explain that? And yeah, I can explain that pretty comfortably, actually. Both Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah are 24, around the age of 24 years of age. And so therefore, when you sign those players at that age onto a brand new contract at a club that are ultimately competing at the top end of the table, that is about the wage that you give to players of that age bracket in a club like Arsenal. It is not surprising to see them on that amount of money at all. And also Arsenal's funds and revenue and, what they're able to pay players increased dramatically over the last fair few seasons. So that's why they're on that level of money. Diogo Jota is 26, 27 years of age. So he's 2-3 years older. And of course, he's been on this wage at Liverpool since, I think, 2022, so 2 years ago. So when he was 1 year older than Eddie Nketiah. So it does actually make a lot of sense why he was on that amount of money. So I hope that answers your question. Mikey says, good news is the opportunity that he has been given by KSE will assume a level of loyalty from him beyond the good times as well. There will be loyalty, but I think it's really important to discuss this point about the contract. And Amir made us come on to this point. We talked about it at length yesterday. Is that I'm in favour of Arteta getting a new contract. I don't see it as a reward. I don't like thinking about the new contract as a reward, because I think if he was to sign a new contract and he didn't win anything this season, if it was for a reward, it's a case of, well, what are you rewarding? And I'm not rewarding him with a new contract. I'm just continuing with Arteta because I think he is the right guy at the moment to take us forwards. And I think that this is the contract in which he has to deliver something to us. That has to be a Premier League title. It has to be a potentially or a Champions League title. That is what we need. And if we don't get that, then I think that it probably proves he's taken us as far as he can go. Rocky, give me a thumbs up if you think you got it fixed yet. I could see Rocky sorted something out. You think? I don't know if we've got the thumbs up yet. I'm going to let him still see if he's fixed it or not. Amira says, for years, fans have said that we should start playing our football, our players like other big clubs. And when we do it, it's too much and makes them hard to sell. And it's true in some ways. People are desperate for youth players to be used. They're desperate for young players to be given more opportunities. But we're in a title race. And can you afford to throw any of the kids into certain fixtures in which there's so much pressure on us needing to deliver a result? And I don't think that there is. I don't think you can justify that in loads of games. I think there's some games you can, but others you can't. Right, let's see if Rocky's ready, shall we? Rocky, is it working? It's not working. I can't hear you. That's Rocky. If you've got a mobile phone or something like that, try the link on there. That's the only way that I think you might be able to fix it. Okay. Sorry, mate. I know this is really frustrating. Let's go to Gary, who says, antenna in response to him. Spurs haven't finished above us yet. Slow on that roll. Come back in the chat if it happens, but I suspect that you won't. I mean, it's true. Spurs haven't yet finished above us with Ange. They're still very much behind us. I try to give people in the chat box, even if it seems like they're trying to be a bit antagonizing, the benefit of the doubt. Doesn't always work out. Sometimes you can be a bit naive about it. But yeah, it is what it is, I suppose. Brat says, if we don't renew, who would you like to see in that role? I have absolutely no idea, Brat, to be honest. I really don't. I don't know who you would pick at this stage. I'd want somebody who was like a serial winner, that was that had won significant numbers of trophies, and not just like in the past, like recently. I'd want someone that was established and in that position to be able to do that. And I'm not sure whether or not that option is out there at the moment. Rocky's ready. Okay. Rocky. No, I still can't hear. Oh, no, I still can't hear you. I'm sorry, mate. This is really, this is really frustrating for you, I'm sure. I'm going to have to end the show in a second anyway, but that's a real shame. Rocky was waiting for ages to come on the show, and sadly, we might not be able to get him on. Red Smoke says, Tom, if not an Arteta out, but how long would you give Arteta? This is the question, isn't it? This is the question I always get asked every single week, every single show nearly. How long do you give him? I told you, I'll give him the next contract, and then he has to win a Champions League. He has to win a Premier League, and he can't afford us to go backwards. If we start going backwards, then it doesn't work, and you can't continue, and you have to admit that you stagnated. You have to admit that you can't take you any further, and there it is. Right, last chance, and then we're going to wrap up the show. So, Rocky, can you speak? No, it's still not working. Rocky, I'm so sorry about this. Drop me a DM on Twitter at Tom Cantor Media, and I'll walk you through how we can try and fix this for the next one, okay? Just drop me a DM and I'll try and sort it out for you next time. I'm really sorry that it's not worked out for you. Technology, it's always letting us down. I'm really sorry about that, mate. Yeah, please drop me a DM and I'll help you sort it out, Rocky. Thank you to everyone that's tuned into today's show. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to so many of you and get so many of you on and have your thoughts heard. I will be back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8 a.m, breaking down all the latest Arsenal news on the Arsenal News Show, rather than the Arsenal Transfer Show, of course, which will be starting once again a month before the next transfer window opens. Thank you for listening. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, morning, weekend. Well, weekend? It's not even Friday yet. Afternoon or evening. But it's been a pleasure, and I will speak to you again then. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy. And as always, up the Arsenal.